What impact would the Barcelona win have this weekend?
Validation, confirmation of all the things that you think you've been doing if you're Xavi and Barcelona. This puts you at a different level in terms of achievement because of what it means on the field, but because of what it means of the growth of your team. We mentioned that Spanish Super Cup semifinal was a moral victory. To actually go into the Bernabeu and win is an actual victory. It's no longer we're okay with playing well. No, now we're playing well and we're winning. You started this week playing against Osasuna, knowing full well that you had to go to Galatasaray and advance in Europa League, and knowing full well that you had El Clasico at the end of the week. If you're able to go through those 3 games, having won all 3, I think it proves a lot to Xavi and to the group of players, more importantly, to the group of players inside that locker room.
Piqué said after that, what was called a moral victory, Sid, that they're getting closer. For you, what impact would it have for Barcelona to win this weekend? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think Ali's expressed it perfectly. That word validation, I think, is really, really important. Look, this is a Clasico, it's true. The league title is not really on the line. Real Madrid have a 10-point lead at the top of the table. It's 15 points over Barcelona, and Xavi Hernandez said last week, look, it's difficult. It's almost impossible now. Even if we were to win the Clasico, you'd need Real Madrid to drop points 3 or 4 times, and that just hasn't happened all season, so it's not about to happen now. So in that sense, this isn't a big Clasico, but I think Ali's absolutely right to frame this around the validation of Barcelona, and it's framed very nicely on the back of that game in Saudi Arabia, because as you say, Piqué said that day, he said, we lost, but we're getting closer to winning. Now, it was really interesting to see the fallout to that game. Because after that game, you had this idea that Barcelona felt like we're getting there. And there was a lovely line, the first line in one of the Catalan newspapers was Barcelona are not back yet, but nearly. They're getting there. And actually in Madrid, there was a kind of a degree of Mickey taking at that. There was a degree of laughing at Barcelona, saying, what, you're going to celebrate a defeat? This is how far you've fallen, that you're going to say, oh, it's great, we played well, even if we lost, as if anything matters other than winning. And bear in mind, by the way, that was a 5th Clasico in a row that Real Madrid had won. And so there was a degree of kind of looking at Barcelona and going, wow, you really are in a bad way. If you're going to celebrate this kind of very empty moral victory in a game that you lost. We can remind you, you lost. Real Madrid in the final, you're not. But I think it did set up, if you like, the beginning of this process where it felt like Barcelona are starting to get things right. Now, the very next game, Barcelona lost 3-2 to Athletic Club and got knocked out of the Copa del Rey. But since then, it's 12 matches and no defeats. There's a very clear sense of this team developing, finding its feet, finding an identity, being the kind of team that Xavi wants it to be. In the last 10 games, they've scored 4 goals 5 times. And so I think Ali's absolutely right. All of this run is fine, but it's the Clasico that says, is this real? And if they were to win that, it makes very little difference in terms of winning the league, because they know they're not going to. It's quite significant, by the way, in terms of them being in Champions League place at the end of the season, if that can happen. But it's fundamentally, I think, about the validation of what it is they're trying to do rather than the game itself.
Sid, let's talk real talk now. Mm-hmm. Who's your favourite player in the whole wide world?
I mean, there are lots of players that I love, as you know, and I couldn't possibly not mention Barry Aspas. I have to mention Santi Cazorla and Juan Mata and Michu and Joaquin. But we're talking about players that make you laugh, players that make you smile, players that are brilliant to watch, players that are a little bit daft at times as well. And it's difficult to look beyond Dani Alves.
I knew it. I knew it was going to be Dani Alves. And guess who caught up with Dani Alves in the latest Bicycle Diaries? Einstein.
Thanks so much for watching ESPN on YouTube. And for more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for premium content and live streaming, subscribe to ESPN Plus.